For joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom. I am Charles Musakanda, and I appreciate you taking the time to grow and mature as we edify one another. Today, going to talk on why things snap, why relationships break down, friendships dissolve, and oftentimes it's because someone is always right. Always right. See, there's three sides to a story: his side, her side, and the truth. And the same applies with any friendship, relationship out there, be it in court or among neighbors, church folk, is there in churches too, and in many different, environments of relationship. There's always three sides to a story. And the reason that is because the other party wants their side of the story to always be true, more true than the other side. The danger of always wanting to be right is that you're susceptible to fabricating stuff. You're susceptible to exaggerating even the very truth itself. You're susceptible to adding a little bit of detail that could misrepresent the whole story. Whenever one is always right, you also have to remember that whenever you talk, you're only repeating what you already know. You're not adding anything to your knowledge pool, to the value of what you have in your mind, in your brain, in your knowledge. So whenever you find yourself in a situation that you, in a discussion, a debate, questioning, or a response to someone, though at times you are right, find a way of conveying your information and your education, your knowledge, your wisdom to the other party. Because oftentimes as well, when you're always right, that usually comes with an attitude. It usually comes with a tone. And these are the things that make relationships fail, that makes friendships dissolve. When someone is put enough under pressure and they've had enough, they would rather, as the Bible says, live on the rooftop than to dwell in a home with you. Be it a husband or a wife, fiance, boyfriend, girlfriend, roommates, whatever it may be, business partners. Some people would rather leave and drop it all, throw in the towel, and forego all the financial expenses and financial benefits just to have their peace of mind. Rather, they have their peace than to be shredded into pieces. So oftentimes, when you find that you're always right, you're prone to lose your friendships. You're prone to lose your relationships. We hear, particularly from Hollywood, of 20, 30, 40-year marriages that come to an end and they file it as irreconcilable differences. And we know, of course, there's other underlying things that they just don't want us to know for the sake of privacy, and they do reserve the right to do so, but there's also truth to it. There are some that truly have dissolved because of irreconcilable differences, where someone has always been right. As a society, as a people, it's high time that we look at ourselves in the mirror and ask questions. Could I have contributed to the problem? What could I have done differently? Maybe even if I was right, I should or could have conveyed my information in a different way. I should have carried myself differently. What did I do that was wrong, that added to the ingredient of this disaster? That's how things snap. You put enough vehicles on a bridge, regardless of how well engineered that bridge is, when it's reached its maximum pressure hold, its tolerance, that bridge is going to collapse. A building can only handle so much earthquake, a given magnitude, before it starts to collapse. That's pressure. The same with relationships, friendships, and how your name is carried in society. That's all dependent on how much pressure you've put on people by always being right. That's how your husband walked away from you, your wife walked away from you, your fiance called off the wedding, your boyfriend, girlfriend called it quits. Do you know people can actually call off relationships without any prospect of meeting somebody? They might not even be dating somebody, no interest in another person, but they've just had enough of you. Why? Because you're always right. When I was once employed when I was an employee, I worked at a company where they put so much work on me. And I constantly had conversations with them about knowing when to stop. You know, they keep adding more and more work and expecting me to meet these goals. And I had a conversation with my immediate superior at the time, and even one superior removed. And it fell on deaf ears. I didn't have any other jobs. I hadn't done any interviews, hadn't even applied for any job. I hadn't even loaded my resume. At the time, we had Monster and Workopolis and all these other online hiring agencies. And I hadn't loaded my resume, but I quit the job, not knowing where my next paycheck is coming from. Why? Because my tolerance level had reached its peak. I'd had enough. The same happens in relationships and friendships. The company thought they were always right. In giving me work and telling me to get it done, I thought they were wrong and I was right in that they're giving me too much. Inevitably, we had to cut relationships. We had to cut ties. Even a cable itself, if you were to winch something, or if you were to zip line on a cable that cannot handle your weight, is going to give in at some point. You can't always be right. Take a moment, you and I, to review, to assess, and to look into ourselves, have an introspection, and say, what can I do to de-escalate the situation and make it better? Thank you for joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom. My name is Charles Musakanda. And before I come off, I can't come off without leaving you with a little passage to reflect on and to read as a foundation, the foundational ingredient, the truth of everything that we talk about on Nuggets of Wisdom. If you were to read Proverbs 15, verse 32, it says, he who disdains, refuses, cancels, repels, does not want anything to do with correction, despises his own soul. But whosoever receives instruction, that person gains understanding. You gain wisdom. Sometimes it's okay to hear what other people say. Sometimes it's okay to be compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic. Sometimes active listening, as a matter of fact, all the time, active listening is key to good communication. So that you also learn what other people say, what other people think. And that's what Proverbs 15 verse 32 is alluding to. Remember that every time you speak, whenever you say something, you're only repeating what you already know. You're not adding any value to your brain. So always remember that. You can't always be right. Proverbs 15 verse 32. Don't despise your soul. Learn, open up, and find yourself some understanding. And I trust that if all friendships and relationships out there were like that, this place will be a better place. This world will be a better place. May you make it a better place for your friendships. May you make it a better place for your relationships. May you make it a better place for your neighbors, your co-workers, and everybody else that's around you. May you leave a good name, a good legacy, and that God will bless and establish your ways. Thank you again for joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom. I am Charles Mosakanda. Please share. Please share. Someone will benefit from this. Someone's life will change from this. Someone's life might be saved from this. So please share. Like, subscribe, comment, ask questions. Let's discuss. Let's edify one another. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.